for a short, okay, the first thing you do is to take your length measurement. That's the first thing we do. That's your crotch measurement, your full length. Your full length area is also where your knee is. Okay, so the first thing I'll do here is to take my full length is 18. Okay, so I'm going to mark here. So this is my waist and then this is my knee length. Okay, my crotch length is 10. So I'm going to mark 10 as well. And then my hip length is 7. How did I get 7? 10 minus 3 equals to 7. That's a constant for me. To get my hip measurement, I said I'm going to subtract 3 inches from wherever point I have as my crotch length. Okay, and then I'll go in and take the same measurement so that I can rule and get a perfect straight line. So I'll just break this line, the hip line, I'll just break it. So I'll just label my waist, my hip, I can also call this my thigh line or my crotch length area, and then this is my knee. You'll be wondering what this is for. I have extra 2 inches here. This will cover up for my hemming allowance. Okay. So I'm going to be working with the circumference measurement now, but before I do that, I'm just going to have some excess at the side. There's no particular measurement for it. It's just in case of adjustments. That's the reason I'm leaving out this extra. So in case I have to do any adjustment, I'll just leave it. Now the first thing I'll do is to take my thigh measurement. Okay. So my thigh is 22. I'll divide it into 2 because I'm working with just one part of the leg, not the 2. Unlike the bust and the waist where we'll divide into 4 because that's the full body. But I'll just divide here into 2. So if I divide 22 in 2 places, I'll have 11. Okay, I'll mark 11 and I can call this point A. Okay, I'll come to my knee. My knee is 18. I'll divide 18 into 2. That is 9. So I'll mark 9 here. I'll call this point B and I'll connect line A to line B. So that's for the lower part. Now I'm going to go to the upper part. So from point A, I'll come back 2 inches. For me, it's a constant, and I'll call this point C. Okay. I'll check whatever I have left. I have 9, so I'll try and square it up. How do I do that? Get the same marking and square it up to touch the waistline, and I'll call this line D. Okay. The next thing I'll do is I'll connect this line D to connect to line A. Okay, so I'll connect line this. I can use my curve to do that. Okay, so how do I get an accurate curve? I'll come in about 1 inch from this point. So 1 inch before I take my curve. About 1 inch before I take my curve. Okay, so this is for the crotch area, and then the next thing I'll do now is to take my waist measurement. My waist is 30. I'm going to divide 30 into 4. 30 in 4 places is 7.5. Okay, 7.5. Now I'm going to start adding my allowance. While I was doing this part, if you notice, I used the exact figures for the thigh and the exact figure for the knee. But for the waist and the hip area, that is not going to apply. Okay, usually I add all my allowance to my pattern when I'm making a short or the trousers. Don't forget, making a short and a trousers, the only difference is the length. So if you know how to do a short, the same thing applies. You just extend it all the way down to get your full length for your trouser. Okay, so my waist is 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. Now how do I add my allowance? This center front area, you will agree with me that we need ½ inch sewing allowance to sew this part. Okay, so that means I need ½ inch for the front, and then I have 7.5. Okay, so half plus 7.5, that's 8 already. I'm going to add another ½ inch from the side. That is 8. That's 8.5. Okay, so I said I'm going to do 7.5. My actual waist is 7.5. I'm going to add ½ inch for the center front sewing allowance, and then I'm going to add another ½ inch for the side seam sewing allowance. I put all of this together, I'll get 8.5. Okay. So I need a total of 8.5 here, and the next thing I'll do is I'll connect my waist to these points here, this area where I marked as my hip length. So the front is ready. Okay, the front pattern is ready. So remember, if you have to do a band, you take cognizance of your band to get your crochet length. I'm sure you would have watched my previous video on how to take trouser measurement, and I'm sure you know how to take trouser measurement. So this calculation shouldn't be a problem for you. If you have to add your band measurement or subtract it to get your crochet length, so that you know where you're working with. Okay, so I want to do the back pattern now. So I cut out the front. I'm trying to explain it and try to simplify it as much as I can. Okay, so I've cut the front, and usually for me, it's easy for me to draft the back pattern with the front. So I'm going to stick this down in the down on my pattern. I'm going to use the back. I'm trying not to confuse you by working with one single piece of paper. That is why I am separating it. Okay, so I'll just stick this down. Now you can also use the same pattern, the same paper to draft your front and back pattern. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to extend. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to extend my thigh line. Okay, I'll extend my thigh line and then measure 3 inches. I'll explain how I got the 3 inches. Okay, remember here I said I have ½ inch here and ½ inch at the side. Okay, so half plus half equals 1. But for the thigh area, I'll add, if I'm adding half to the inner leg of the front, that's this area of the trouser, I'm adding half here, equals 1. That's for just the front part alone. If I'm adding another half to the back here and then half to the back side, equals 1. So I need to add 1 inch for the back, 1 inch sewing allowance for the back. I need to add another 1 inch sewing allowance for the front. Now why am I doing this? If you notice, most times your shorts or your trousers, you notice that the back piece rolls over to the front. The back piece rolls over to the front. Okay, that's why I'm not doing the front and back equally. The back is always longer than the front. There are hardly situations where it's not, especially for palazzo or boot cut and hair. But if you are doing regular shorts, the back usually rolls over. That's why I'm adding all of the allowance to the back. Okay, so I said I'm adding 1 for the front, that's half plus half. I'm adding 1 for the back, equals to 2. So whatever my thigh measurement is, I'm adding 2. Okay, now I'm adding extra 1 inch for ease. It's a constant. Okay, so all together here I have 3 inches here. Okay, so this is the knee area. This is the knee area. I need to add the 2 inches sewing allowance here. Then I'll add ½ inch for ease. That's 2.5 all together. So I'm connecting this point to this point. I have D already. I can have this point E and point F. Okay, extend this down for the roll over. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure my hip. I'm also going to consider the fact that I have 2 inches extra. Remember I said half on each of the sides, half on each. I said ½ inch for each of the sides. So in 4 places, ½ inch, I'm going to have 2 inches. Now, I'm going to measure my hip now. And the first thing I'm going to consider is this 2 inches I talked about. So I have 2 inches as a constant that I'm going to add to whatever I have. My hip is 38. I'm going to divide 38 into 2. Unlike the waist, I divided the waist into 4. So the waist I'll divide it into 2. That's 38 divided by 2. I'll have 19. 19 plus 2, I'll have 21. So for my hip area, the figure I need is 21. So the first thing I'll do here is I'm going to measure the front hip. Okay, from this edge, this center front to the side seam. Okay, I have 9 inches. Now, I will have to continue my tape at this spot till I get what I want. Okay, so it's also the same thing as saying if this is 9, okay, I also need to complete it. So I'm going to place the same 9 inches here to get 21. I want to re-explain this part. I'm going to measure this part now. So what I have here now is 9 inches. Okay, now watch. It's just like say I'm spinning my tape round. So this is 9 inches. Okay, here I'm spinning my tape round to get 21 inches. Okay, I hope I explained it properly. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my coil and connect it to this point. After I do that, I'm going to, as it ascends, as the way it comes up here, as it's ascending, is the way I will allow my ruler to sit. And I'll take a straight line. Okay, so by the time I've gotten this figure here, I'm going to connect this to this point and then I'll extend it with a straight line. That's for the hip. So the hip is settled. I need to go to the waist now. Okay, so before I get the back, I'll heighten the back with 2 inches. It's actually a constant, but if you have like a smaller figure, say hip 36, 35, you can do about 1.5 inch. But if you have above 40, I wouldn't advise to do less than 2 inches because that's what I use and that's what works for me. Okay, so I'm going to heighten it with 2 inches. Okay, so I'll go back to my measurement. My waist is 30. If I divide 30 in 4 places, I have 7.5 plus 1 half side seam. That's 8.5. Now, unlike the front, if you notice, I didn't put that. But for the back, I'm going to consider my dart measurement. Okay, so 8.5. My dart measurement is 1 inch. So altogether, I'll get 9.5. Okay, so from this point to the waistline, okay, so I'll just extend it to the waistline. I don't know why this stuff is not sticking. Okay, to the waistline here, my tape will land at 9.5. Okay. So I'll connect this to this. It's actually a coincidence that it landed here. Most times it can hit the same spots with the front waist, or it could even come out more. Okay, so this is my back waist, this is my front, and this is just my method of drafting the short pattern for trousers, or for trousers as well. I hope it was beneficial. I hope you learned something, and I hope I was able to educate someone that needs this. Thank you.